Freedom Exchange. We're going to let our stuff connect, make sure we're good. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, it'll take a second.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. See?
Yeah.
Okay. You know us and our, there we are. Okay. We're live. Sometimes what's the longest we went once?
I don't know. In the beginning,
like 15 minutes. And then somebody texted and said, it's not live. So we're here we are. Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Freedom Exchange. We've seen each other more this week. This was a better week. We got to hang out more.
Yeah, long walk.
Yeah, we had a long walk and usually talk about our own stuff, but this time we talked about our guest on our last really long walk because there was so much fun stuff to talk about. And you've interacted with Nicole enough times to we kind of know the story and what's going on, and that she's a kick-ass girl and she's one of our kind.
Yes, she's actually one of my Twitter friends, one of my favorite Twitter friends. It's funny because my teacher on my first class in college said that we had to get on Twitter for an assignment, and I was like, oh man, I'm barely like getting back into social media, so I have to do another platform. And so I it was ridiculous, but it actually ended up being amazing. I love Twitter. Yeah. So we have Nicole on Twitter.
Okay. Well, I really want to get going on this one because she's got lots of great things to say and I have lots of questions. But do you want to tell our viewers about the Freedom Exchange?
Yes. Hi, everybody. The Freedom Exchange is a place where we bring people that have been affected by incarceration together with people that may not have been, so we can bridge the communities. I'm really excited about this conversation, because I think this will touch a lot more people that have never been incarcerated. And so my love, or our love, is to get people that don't know anything about it and kind of get to know people that have been incarcerated instead of the things you hear from movies or see on TV or books, and really like come face to face with people to say, wow, they did 5 years, they did 10 years, 2 years, whatever it is. And so we can have real conversations so people know that we are, we're all the same. We always say that. So, and there's always more to the story instead of the headline, which is usually jacked up anyway. So that's why we're here.
Yeah. And I think that's a great segue to how the headline can be really somewhat deceiving to what actually happened in the story. And so, Nicole, is it okay if I share a little bit of your story and then we'll get going?
Absolutely.
Hear me? Okay. I'll just keep it brief. So Nicole's story is an interesting one in the sense that this can happen to anybody. A lot of us go out and have a glass of wine or a drink with a friend, or we go to an event and
have one or two.
Yeah. And or whatever we do and we think we're fine, or the person that's driving us home thinks we're fine, they're fine. And then something happens. And for most of us, something doesn't happen. And I should have looked up the statistic of this before, but we've heard multiple times that people that get arrested for DUIs have driven drunk many, many times. And that was just the one time they got caught. And so this story is just a cautionary tale that it can happen to anybody. And most of us aren't as careful as we should be when we're at an event and we have a drink. So Nicole's story is that she was involved in a multi-vehicle accident, and she came upon an accident that had already happened. And then she, what did we decide? She hit a gentleman that was outside of his vehicle at the accident, and and it was fatal. So Nicole, do you want to fill in, before I have you do that, let me just say that in Texas, where Nicole is from, she's from Dallas, you're not, it's a requirement for her not to speak about the victim. And so she has to be careful of how she shares her story out of, for legal reasons and out of respect for the victim and the victim's family. So what would you like to add to your story before we move on that you're able to share?
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I know it's tough to just kind of jump in here and get right to this, but I think it's really important. What happened is such a tragedy. And it was at a point in my life where I had made that awful choice, a decision, and got in my car. And sometimes it's not necessarily about just making the choice and the decision. You don't know also too what is ahead of you, what's in front of you. and you have to take full accountability and responsibility. And that's what I've done. And it's really painful and difficult to live with it every day, especially when there isn't that interaction, with the family, other than a very limited interaction in a courtroom. In the prison system, I was actually able to do an amazing program called Bridges to Life, which is a victim-focused program. The founder of it actually lost his sister in a horrible murder. And he started working in prison ministry and fellowship. Now over 55,000, probably even 60,000 actually, have been through this program here in Texas. And it's incredible. And they're a partner of mine. And I'm actually going to be giving the closing prayer next Saturday night at the annual dinner. But I say all that to say that it's really difficult, because while I want to come out here and share my story and tell my story, it's really hard that I can't be as transparent in some instances that I'd like to be. But the main thing that I want people to understand is, it can happen in a split second, and you really have to think about your life. And for me, what I had to do was literally drop to my knees, because at that point I was suicidal after all the events and everything had transpired. And it was a really long night, and it wasn't an instantaneous thing that happened anyway. I didn't know until the following morning, after I'd been to the hospital and back to the jail, that he had passed. So I was suicidal. It was brutal. It was a moment where I had to make a choice and a decision. Do I also destroy my life and my family's life? Or am I going to take this and rise from this? Whatever was going to come from it, I didn't know. I was facing potentially up to 20 years in prison. And was I going to leave a better legacy from this? And I chose the latter. I chose God, and I spent 3 years on bond. And during that 3 years, my mother had dementia, and it made me in a really quiet place. I had no social media. I had no interaction with anybody. I was very involved in my church, my therapy. I was blessed with some beautiful people. My mentors still today that mentor me in what I do now with my organization, but it allowed me to get free. I got free before I went to prison. I wouldn't have made it probably through prison if I hadn't have done all that. Yeah.
So can you explain for our viewers about bond?
Yeah.
What that 3 years was like, or just briefly what that means?
What is bonds?
Sure. So bond is when you're waiting, whether you're going to go to trial or if you're going to do a plea, which I believe that if the percentage is like 90 something percent, maybe even as high as 95 to 98% of cases do not go to trial. Right. I had never been involved in the justice system. I had no idea what I was dealing with. I was just kind of literally just, heads down, focused on whatever I had to do. I had ankle monitors. I had blow devices for alcohol. I had reporting every month. I had classes to attend. And this was on top of caring for my mother in her dementia. She ultimately passed away while I was on bond before I went to prison. And then, of course, all my therapy and treatment. So bond it's almost like a probation, at least in the bond that I experienced. Where, you're constantly accountable. It was a pre-trial diversion that I was in. And so it was very structured, and, very stringent and almost like if you were on a probation. So that was 3 years, prior to then, finally coming to terms with just pleading. I just said, let's just do whatever is the right thing to do here. And I ended up doing a 10-year non-aggravated, non-violent charge. And I went to prison for 1 year and 4 months and made my first parole.
How did 10 years go down to 1 year?
The way it's calculated, I had 0 infractions. Like I said, when I went in, I'd also studied. I knew how to try to do my best time. I knew that I was going to go in and look for the programs, rehabilitation. I actually met with a parole attorney ahead of time to say, hey, can I meet somebody that's been to prison? I hadn't really been around anybody that had been in prison before. I didn't know. I knew what a lot of people do on TV. I had no idea what to expect. I was petrified. So I wanted to make sure that I could do whatever I needed to do to do my best time and try and make those paroles and come home. I really didn't know what it was going to be. So when I found out that I could do a DWI program, I could do cognitive skills, there were certain programs, if I got to a specific unit and I found that out ahead of time, then I was able to get in and actually drop the requests and follow the process and know exactly what I needed to do to stay in line as best as I could to move through the rehabilitative side of prison and really ferret those out. So it's difficult to find the program and to get it, especially when I had the length of a sentence I did, but I was very persistent and God looked out for me and I was able to get into DWI, and that was my parole answer. So it was a blessing.
Okay. I have a question. So why weren't you immediately arrested and put in jail or prison?
I was. So I was arrested immediately. I spent the night in jail.
And they let
I went down to the hospital first to be checked out. Right. And then I made my bond. And then I was on the bond for 3 years.
Okay. That's good. Okay. Got it.
It just took that long before everything came to fruition. It happened in 2015.
Okay.
2015. And then you went in 18, got out at 19.
2018. Correct.
So let's get into a little bit of who you are. First, who were you when you were in, actually, let's go back. What role did you play in your community, in your friend group? Like, who is Nicole in a group of friends or at an event, or what role do you fill?
Well, it changed quite a bit. Obviously, my life is completely on a totally different spectrum now than where it was. It's been a blessing in that I really got to the root of who Nicole was. For many, many years, I was in corporate America. I worked for, AT&T, Hyperion, Oracle. I was in technology. I was a go-getter. I was, in top sales and doing high technology. I was doing cloud, those kind of things. I had started off in a call center when I was 18 and didn't know anything. And I was selling office supplies at a huge margin, but I gave you a free toaster. This was back in 1990. I was solution selling at its finest. And I had a knack for it. I could give you the free dust buster, no problem, and just get you to buy the paper clips to go with it. And that evolved as call center technology evolved. Mm-hmm. Yeah, can you see me doing that?
Yeah, totally.
And as that evolved from, the phones, literally where before we would coach, literally the mouthpiece would be unscrewed and somebody just be standing in front of your desk, to then the software. And I just kind of had a knack for understanding the software. And it was a very male dominated business. And I fit in well with that. I was a tough broad, and I got in there and said, I'm going to beat you guys, and I'm going to sell more than you, and I'm going to make more money. And as I did that, I got ego driven. I got pretty narcissistic, and I think I lost my way quite a bit, and alcohol flowed. This was back in the coms when everything just started. They were throwing money at us left and right, stock options. I was doing really, really well, but I was not managing my money well. I was not managing my life well. I was married and divorced multiple times, moving houses multiple times. What appeared like on the outside, I had this huge circle of friends, wonderful people in my life that I've had for many, many years, going out all the time, but I was not taking care of me. I thought I was a Christian. I thought I was leading a meaningful life. I had no idea what that meant until what happened in 2015. And I was brought to my knees. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. So it's completely different. I'm still the same person. And you use this term a lot, Christy, transferable skills. Mm-hmm. So the skills and the things that I've used in my adult life that before I used for a lot of other reasons, now I've completely channeled all of those into what I do today in my nonprofit, in my purpose and mission in life. And it's been a beautiful way to kind of pay it forward and pay it back, because there were a lot of regrets that I had, along the way, a lot of great bosses that just, really kind of turned a blind eye sometimes, or did try to mentor me and pull me aside and say, you're the best salesperson I've got, but you're partying, or, the expense accounts are out of control, or, whatever the case may be. And they're wonderful people. And I burned them, but they kept me around because I was making them money or leading a great team. And then on my family life, it affected my family life as well. My sister had terminal cancer. So I was trying to juggle going back and forth between Colorado and Houston, where she was getting treatment at MD Anderson, all while I was managing a territory amongst 14 different states. And, you know, it just kind of all dogpiled on me to where one day I just woke up literally before the accident. I knew things had to change in my life. And I hit what I call the F it button, pardon my language, but I just said, you know what, eject. I have to stop. And I turned in my laptop. I quit my 6-figure job, and I quit all the charity work I was doing. I was really active in a bunch of the Dallas animal charities, was kind of the big one that I was involved in. You know, resigned from my positions within all those volunteer organizations, and kind of went quiet. And I think I saw the writing on the wall that I was not making good choices, that I was problem drinking, that things had spiraled out of control. I hadn't dealt with a lot of things in my life. And it was time for me to do a totally different thing. Went to go open a business of my own, you know, just kind of focus on some other things. And I just hadn't gotten it together, because obviously, look what happened. God made sure that I, in an instant, knew that, nope, I wasn't going to do it on my terms. I was going to do it on his.
Been there.
Yeah, me too. I've been exactly there.
Been there. We say often we don't want someone to have to crash and burn or have a tragedy happen to get that message. And it looks different for everybody. But I think the three of us sitting here have had something rock our world and shift our gears.
I ask everybody that is almost on the edge of going through it, you know, like, hey, is there anything I can do? Is there anything we can say? Is there anything that can get you to stop, to get to the other side, like without being in horrible pain? Pretty much the answer is consistently no,
nothing.
It's not.
So Nicole, when did your mindset and your perspective shift on, you know, those transferable skills when they were going to be used for a different purpose? When did that click for you?
Oh, I'll tell you, the second I walked into Dallas County Jail, that place is, I thought I was prepared, and I was not prepared at all. You know, I'd been in there, but it was so brief when I went in, that when I actually went in to go wait to what's called pull chain. So you have to go back to county, and you have to sit in county jail for an X number of time, even when you're already sentenced, before you actually go to the penitentiary. So I'm sitting there waiting to just get to get this.
Here, pull that one nice and close.
Offender. Just in case you forget.
Yeah. So there's my offender ID. So I was waiting to pull chain to go to be an offender, but I was already state property. So I'm sitting there, and a lot of the girls are in and out of these doors. And I've heard the term recidivism. Don't try to say that 10 times fast.
Yeah.
Recidivism.
I got it down. It took me a while.
You know, and it's horrible. We've created this machine and this monster of this revolving door of going in and out, in and out, in and out. And I could not believe it. So it was literally the very first week, and they put me in psych under suicide watch. Not because of something I'd said or done. Like I said, I was the healthiest I'd ever been, but I think probably because I was a first timer and the nature of my, you know, charge and the length of my sentence. So they put me in this fishbowl, and literally it's glass walls, and, you know, everybody's in, it was just horrible. And I'm looking around at all these women though, and it's totally different than what I expected. And I thought, they're just like me. We're all in all of our brokenness. Yeah. And we're sitting here though, in this cesspool of this system that is breaking us further. Yeah. This makes no sense to me. I understand accountability. Don't get me wrong. Responsibility and accountability are so critical, because without that, we don't have the leverage and the opportunity to say, hey, you know, this isn't right. There's right and wrong. I'm not saying that there is not to be accountability, but what we're doing and what I saw happening was absolutely unconscionable. Yeah. I had never in my wildest dreams, it was like what I'd seen in movies and worse. But I was living it with these ladies. Mama Diamond is what was born immediately. These women were all calling me mama. Some of them were even calling me grandma. I'm like, I'm only 44 at the time. I was only 44, but that's, you know, some of these young girls, and they've been in and out. They're so young.
Yeah.
And, you know, they saw me, I was already mentoring, you know, because I was in a healthy spot, and it just was instant. And my mother in the 80s, that we didn't have cell phones. We had some land up in Oklahoma, and my dad would worry about us up and down on the roads because he couldn't come until the weekends. So he got my mom a CB in her car, so that if we ever had a flat or whatever, her CB handle was Rusty Diamond. So I thought, this is
I didn't know
perfect.
that.
It's
Wow,
an
what a
honor-
great story.
Yeah. It's an honor to my mom. And if you think about a diamond, what is a diamond? It's born out of pressure, right? A diamond's born out of pressure, and a diamond isn't perfect, but it's brilliant. It's radiant. It's resilient. It's hard, but it's multifaceted. It was like all these things in my head. Literally that second day in Dallas County, it was, okay, I'm Mama Diamond. Y'all are Rusty Diamonds. I called my husband. I said, I need you to buy this domain and get this website going. And then a friend of mine who I'd worked with on some nonprofit, they built my website. And so we started Rusty Diamond while we were, hey, my little dog. We started Rusty Diamond while I was inside. And I have those very same diamonds today. Some of them might even be here on Facebook. I can't see who all is on Facebook right now.
We'll have to get on there. Do you want to?
We have the same diamonds that are alumni or in our network.
What were the early days of the Rusty Diamonds concept? What did it look like in the early days while you were still in prison compared to what it is today?
So, you know, it's interesting. It's a lot of the same, because what Rusty Diamond Network is about leading a meaningful life, right? I call it, there's 4 C's to a diamond, right? There's color, clarity, and quality. Well, for Rusty Diamond, for us, we have character, choices, compassion, and centered, right? So your moral compass, mind, body, spirit. If we take care of all of these things, we're leading a meaningful life. So inside, it was really helping these girls to not focus on the walls around them, but to focus on what was within them. And let's use this time to our advantage. How can we best take advantage of this time, this quiet time, and make it a positive thing? So I would get Bible studies, really neat ones, to come in and get the girls together and do Bible studies with them. I took them through some trauma work. I've been through about 4,000 hours of trauma therapy of all different kinds. So we would do our trauma timelines. I would take them from all the way from, 0 to where they are today and break that down. I would say 98% of the women in there have some type of trauma, whether it's sexual trauma, and then wrapped around that is addiction. So we'd also talk about, okay, is it really addiction, or is it problem drinking, or were you problem using, or and it's the same thing we're doing today. The difference is I was mentoring and coaching and doing those things inside, and also for myself, that mentoring goes, both ways. It's peer mentoring. And now I do it via the phone. So the girls write me from the prison, and then they refer to each other. I have peer diamond mentors at 11 different prisons here in Texas. Then I also work with county jails, county reentry people, judges, attorneys, legal aid, you name it. Christy and I have worked together on quite a few diamonds.
Like
so, however they come to, and basically I'll put them on my phone, and then I start coaching them on the phone. As a matter of fact, the phone just had one call me right now. And then from there, we work on the whole process of the same thing we were doing while I was inside. Now, what are we going to do for you when you get out? How can I help you with all of your reentry? And I'm really a reentry broker, because there's the whole reentry is a mess. I mean, that's a different conversation. But so to answer that long-winded is, I'm really doing it like I did it inside. I'm just doing it from me being out here, and the girls are reaching out to me out here. And the difference really is, of course, out here, I can do a lot more for them. And that's why I called it the Rusty Diamond Network, even though we're really a ministry. I called it the network because I network and bring everybody together. And that's the key. When we have a community and we support each other together in community and we stay together. I have not yet come across anybody that has the same model that I have, where we're one-on-one. We're with them while they're inside, but we stay connected to them. So there's volunteers and there's wonderful organizations that come in, but then they're not with them when they're out. Or there's organizations that are with us when we're out, but they're not with us when we're in. We're able to be that bridge and be with you when you're inside and when you're out. And you're a diamond for life. I have told them it is unconditional. I love you. It is unconditional.
Are most of them in your area?
No, they're all over the state. I've got girls from Amarillo all the way, all over the state. Most of them are actually not in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay. Do you get any pushback from anybody involved with what you're doing, or that? I thought maybe you did.
I bet she's not afraid of pushback.
I know, I don't think you are, but I would love to hear some of what could possibly be happening with that pushback, and where is it coming from?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Well, there's a couple of areas. One is I really firmly believe that we have a reimagined reentry. We really need to throw the word reentry out the freaking door.
Yeah.
What am I reentering? I never left. I'm still in this community. Yes, I'm behind bars, but I'm still a part of my community. I still have family. And guess what? Here's the big thing. And this is what you guys put on my quote. 95% of people that go to prison are getting out. Mm-hmm. And we are coming out, and we're going to be your neighbor. We're going to be right here at the store. You're going to be interacting with us. So how do you want us to come out? How do you think we're going to come out if we're in a violent, destructive, drug-infested, horrible situation, or if we are in a situation where there's restorative, not punitive, but restorative justice, where we have an opportunity and an ability to make ourselves stronger and better while we're being held accountable? Mm-hmm. What kind of neighbor do you think we're going to be? Yeah. I think you're going to see a lot more diamonds. And my goal is that we completely transform it. Yeah. And everybody's a diamond. And I have men now too, I'm working with, that are rusty nails, is what I call them. And then I've got a gentleman who calls himself my Black Pearl. Love him. He was on death row actually for 40 years. Amazing gentleman. And he's out here on parole now. Had his case went all the way to the Supreme Court. And he's one of the most beautiful people. And he spent over 20 something years in solitary. Yeah. So think about what he's had to come out here and deal with. So helping people like that transition and function, and not only function, but be loving, caring, kind people in society, and giving back and contributing in ways that are just unbelievable. We have so much that we can offer. And then top that with the fact that I'm willing to take the heat that I take. I get messages, I get death threats, I get I've been told to hang like Epstein from a prison cell, and why didn't I hang myself? I get called horrible names. I mean, there's some messages that come across that are just, tragic. And I understand. I get it. I get that anger. I would have that same anger towards me, that's from the accident.
Yeah.
And the fact that I can't address it. And they don't understand that. But you know what? I just don't respond, because the bottom line is my actions and what I'm doing. And if I can just save one person, if my message resonates, sorry, I told myself I was not going to cry.
Girl,
if my message will touch one person. I was at TCU just a couple of weeks ago with David Gerlach, and I'm meeting these kids, college kids. Yeah. And telling them my story. And if just one of them thinks, God, I'm going to call that Uber, I'm going to call that Lyft, God, I'm not going to get in that car, that to me is so worth it to take that heat. And honestly, other than that, I don't really get pushback. I've got a couple of DAs that have stuck their finger in my face and said, get out, you're not negotiating with us on this plea for my people. Because I'll go to court and write letters and support my people and say, hey, let's do diversion. But it's because they're uneducated and they don't understand what restorative justice is. Mm-hmm. And that why does it make sense to take somebody that's healthy in the community and productive, that has an old charge from a year and a half ago, and go put them in jail for 20 days? They lose their job, their car, their family relationships. Mm-hmm. Why are we going to go stick them in jail for 20 days? They've already been in jail before. They know what they've done is wrong. They don't care. So I will push back on them, and I've gotten permission to be in that courtroom. So I have a right to be there. I have a right to be representing them and helping them. But on the flip side, I've got a lot of DAs and a lot of different counties up here that are willing to work with us and say, you know what, you're amazing what you guys are doing. We want you in here with us because you help us.
Yes.
And then the same with TDCJ, you know, the prison system here. I'm augmenting and helping them a happier, healthier, as they call them, inmates. I hate that term, or offender. What does that do for your prison? That makes your prison run smoother, right? Parole officers. I love working with parole officers. I've worked with some amazing parole officers, and they say, you know what, this helps me because I know I can pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, this diamond is acting like a cubic zirconia over here. What's going on? You know, and I said, what is going on? We don't want cubic zirconias around.
Don't be a CZ, little sister. Don't be a CZ.
Oh no.
Wow.
You
There's
know
so
what
many
like,
things.
we all have ups and downs.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
so
yeah.
many-
But the thing about it is, if I wasn't in the picture, they get a technical violation and they're gone.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's wrong.
it's scary going through that, you know, it's scary going to court. You already have shame, you have guilt, you have so many things, and it's hard to just kind of see out from under. And so if you have someone like you that's side by side with you, that is really encouraging. I talked to someone today and I said, you know, I'm really proud of you. And they said, wow, no one's really ever said that to me since my mom when I was 5. And it was just a small statement. It makes such a big difference for people to think, wow, I guess it does make a difference if I do well, if I try, or, you know.
And something that David has stuck with me since we met David was changing your language from offender to somebody that has caused an offense or has committed a crime. It's something that you did. It's not who you are. And it takes that title, that label off of you, that like that card you're holding, no matter where you go, it says you're an offender. But what if you committed an offense, but you're not doing that anymore? Yet that's your label that's on you. And I think that's really important when we're talking about people coming in as your neighbors. You know, I'm really careful now. I really work hard to, when I share about our show, when I share about the people we've met, to make sure my language is that this is something that they did, but this person, and then you talk about who they are and highlight who they are. And it starts with me, it starts with you, it starts with everybody that we interact with. I feel a responsibility to change that language and the perspective. We're not looking at their crime, which can be really like, what's the word, like salacious or dramatic, or people are curious, but more so I want to highlight who these people are and the cool, like what they learned and where they spend their time now. That's the beautiful stuff.
Well, I also want to change the language when you're inside, because I always get letters, you know, that talk about inmates. And so the language inside, because they don't know any better. You don't know any better when you're in there. So it took me a while to stop referring to us as inmates. And then I realized, oh, there's a whole new language. So I think that needs to start inside, just kind of like what you talk about, reimagined reentry. Like it needs to start at arrest. So does the language. Do not refer to yourself as an inmate, you know, all the different person
Did you do that
centered.
Did you change while you were in?
No, I changed while I was out, and I would say inmate. People say, don't say it's better to say another word, like you said, formerly incarcerated or someone with incarceration history, justice impacted. It took me a while to shift that. So I think it needs to start inside after 5 years.
But you do that now, even with me. Sometimes you'll say, like, if I'm down on myself or having a hard situation, you say, don't talk to yourself like that. And now be careful how you're referring to yourself in this situation.
Yeah, but when someone's in prison, I didn't know another word. I just said, I'm an inmate.
But you're still doing it now, whether it's prison or not. You're really good about speaking kindly about yourself and building yourself up.
It's important. Yeah. It's important. I think in my 50s, I'm learning what someone does is not who they are. That's a new concept for me. That's a new concept. And it's true.
It's really critical. You guys are hitting on something really important. And this is a big theme with all of my mentoring and what we focus on in leading a meaningful life. Those labels are what got us in the door.
Yes.
All those labels that I had on, you know, look at me, the blonde, the Dallas girl, you know, I labeled myself. I had labels on me. All these things, right? And what I realized when I went through all of my deep soul searching and everything was I can't label anything, and all that shame and blame. God has all that for me. And I'm not going to be defined by my mistakes and my challenges. It's what I'm going to do going forward, because it's the legacy that's going to be left of all of that, right?
Yes.
So the problem is that you label yourself, oh, I'm this addiction, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that, and you're pigeonholing yourself in that, and that self-talk gets going, and guess what happens? Then you're just in the same cycle, and you're in a cycle of a system, especially if you're justice impacted, that loves that, because they're going, come on back, come on back, come on back, because the recidivism rates are 70%. Texas has the highest recidivism rates in the country. It's horrible. We are a lock them up and forget about it state. It's really tough. As a matter of fact, I'm working with right now as an EPIC ambassador on a bill that we're working on for programming and reentry, that it starts the second the bracelets go on. That's my thing. The second those handcuffs go on, I call them bracelets, but that we've got to start focusing on how are we going to keep this person in the community mindset? How are we going to restore this person? How are we going, not re-enter, how are we going to keep them? And how are we going to grow them? And it's not a matter of, hey, we're just going to punish them, and then after that, we're going to go fix them. That's the mentality right now. We punish them to a point, and then when it comes time to parole, okay, we're going to fix them now. Put them in a 6-month program. Put them in a 3-month program. It doesn't work.
Well, the damage
We've proven it
inside of prison, even the extra damage that's caused in there, not just their trauma and their childhood and their crime and their shame, all of that comes into prison with them. But then the things that we've been hearing about that happen while you're in prison
is traumatizing,
just is even bigger and even deeper.
But I wonder how do you keep that thought of you're still in the community when you're in prison, because the whole prison system is designed so that you are like, even, you are cut off from the world. You're cut off, you're behind a fence, you're behind a wall. And I mean, even the judge can say, you're going to go to a camp, or here's what I recommend. And the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons, does not have to abide by that. So the judge can say anything, and you're thinking, I'm going to go to a camp, or I'm going to, fill in the blank. And then as soon as you walk away and you're in, the property of the BOP, they do whatever they want, which means they bury you. Like you said, a man being in solitary for 20 years, we say things like big, huge statements like that so quickly. And it's like, wait a second, 20 years? How does a man in solitary for 20 years, 5 years, 1 year think I'm still in the community? People can't handle COVID in their house. So that's the challenging part. But I think the more you speak about it, the more you get the POs, the more you get, the wardens would be amazing to stand up for that. I think it would be a big shift, but I don't know if the prison wants that. What do you think? That's a big fight.
That's what we're working on.
Okay.
So
if anyone can do this, Nicole can.
HB 4189. That's the bill you guys are going to see me tweeting about, talking about. Awesome. That hopefully, Topeka and crew, everybody we can get, a hold of too. I am determined to get the Republicans and the Democrats and everybody bipartisan. We're gonna be hitting it hard at the legislative. So that's what this EPIC ambassador position has been. It's amazing to be, really diving deep into what lobbying is versus advocacy, and how bills get written, and meeting all these incredible people. And that I'm in a 6-month program for that right now. So that I did some lobbying, and actually went down and did some advocating as well. And I met with the chairman of the corrections committee this past year. During session, I've been learning how it all works and how our session is set up. I know you've been a big part of that. You got a bill passed for banning the box, which is amazing. And I think the more of us that do that, I can't vote, but you know what? I can dang sure get a bill passed that is going to change the way we handle classification when we come in. And through that, this amazing group of people at the Texas, they were TCJC, now it's the Texas Center for Justice and Equity. They just changed their name, so I'm still getting used to it. But I've been working with them for a couple of years. Amazing people. I've become best of friends with the leaders over there, and they're just incredible. And they do legislation. This was a bill that one of the gals over there had put before the legislation, but it never really kind of went far enough. And now we're going to modify that. There's a whole team of us working on it, and then I can partner with the other advocacy groups. So I mean, I think things are really shifting and changing, where that mindset it is changing, because people are realizing we're being insane right now. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, and you're expecting a different result. And people are seeing that. And now too, people are also realizing the money machine. Everybody's calling that out and demanding that the financials be released, and are seeing that,
awesome.
the contribution.
Good.
Yeah. So it's got to change. It's got to change.
I'm just having this moment of when we chatted and you kind of painted that picture of the life you lived prior with the events and the charities and the society scene. You grew up in that, and you did that as through your life, and then you were a leader and a go-getter and making things happen, and that's still you. But look at the new arena you're in. It's so cool. It's so beautiful.
Cool? It's the best.
It's the same you. It's just not that what you were doing before wasn't great, but this is amazing, and this is changing lives, like for real, changing lives.
Well, it's like the same you with this humongous ball of authenticity and spirituality driving. So there's no, it seems to me like there's not a push to manage. You're just going for it. You're just like, let's go all in, and they're in trouble. As ever in your way, it's like, damn, let's get out of Nicole's way.
Love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
We have those kind of people in our life.
Yeah,
we love that.
We can tell when we meet friends that are, well, you
Similar.
said you were a rule follower, and
For a second.
And then Christy and I were like, I don't know. Are we?
No, we're not. I'm not. I mean, no, I can't even fake it anymore. I mean, it depends on the rule. Is there a rule that we would follow?
I have a question, and we're going to switch gears just a tiny bit. What time is it? Okay, we have time. What would you say your strongest characteristic about yourself is that you love, but that maybe you have to be careful with sometimes with who you're using it on, or who, more sensitivity sometimes? Yeah. What is that characteristic in you?
It can be polarizing. Yeah, I'm just tenacious as hell. Pardon my language again, but and it can be polarizing. So I have to be really careful. It's my greatest strength, but I try to make sure that I watch my audience and how I use that, because it can be a weapon or it can be a tool. And I always
why do you love that? Tool.
But if it needs to be a weapon because I need to protect somebody, don't. Mama Diamond, one of my guys says he knows when Mama Dragon comes out. And I'm like, well, let's not get Mama Dragon to come out.
This is the black pearl.
No, this is my
rusty nail.
No, my rusty nail. He's a young one.
The rusty nail. Do you have a characteristic?
Yeah. I was just going to ask you that.
I want to know what yours is.
Mine
that
is,
you love about yourself, and you're so glad you have it, but you also have to kind of manage it.
I think my biggest one is that I don't know if I have adult ADD, but I'm interested in everything. Like I am so proud of myself when I said no to something. I wanted to throw a party, because really I'm interested in everything. And since I've been able to, do a lot more than I thought I was capable of, I want to keep pushing and pushing. And like, as you're talking about the changes in law for the state, my head keeps going to, it needs to change nationally. Like, how can we get the national, law changed in like the Bureau of Prisons and stuff? But yeah, that's my love, and that's my total curse.
Yeah.
What about you? It's just not going to be her and I that answer it. I want to hear from you.
It's similar to, and you're going to agree with this because you call me out on it a lot of things, but I think it's my intensity. I think that I don't have a lot of patience for myself to hang out in the shallow end and just like feel out the scene. I just want to go deep and ask the questions, and I'm super curious, and I get a little intense with maybe it seems like I'm interrogating somebody, but I really just like want to know more. And I'm a challenger. So my intensity tends to challenge people to question themselves,
and if they don't want to be questioned, then they get pissed off.
Not everybody wants to jump in the deep end of the pool.
No,
with me.
they're still over in the baby beach.
And I'm learning that that's okay. Sometimes it's okay
Yeah.
just to go, how was your day? And the weather's beautiful. What kind of coffee are you drinking? Like that's acceptable, but it's my kryptonite when I am not patient to just hang out in the shallow end for a little. And the shallow end's not bad.
I understand, but I think our circle and the people that we meet on the Freedom Exchange are of the same type, probably because we know things, we see things. Instead of putting a label on something, we're curious, we ask the questions, and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So what's at the surface isn't always what is. So I think, so that's why we like to go deep, because we know there's always more to the story.
There's always more to the story.
Yeah, but some people are just not wanting to do that. And it is frustrating when you are helping so many people get out of prison, and all the atrocities that you saw from the young girls in prison. I mean, when I remember girls were, I said, well, where's your mom? They said, well, my mom's the one that shot me up with the heroin. And I was like, shocked. I kept getting shocked. And like, you're 19. And I would look at him and I'd say, you're going to be okay. Like, I promise you, you'll be okay. And she's bawling. How can you say that? And so it's a whole new world that like you said, I had no idea. So now it's like the shallow end just isn't, it's too.
Life is short.
Yeah, let's get it.
Nicole, how do you handle these people that you get to know and love and help, and then they step backwards or fall back into old patterns? Like, how do you in your own heart, who's been loving on them, how do you process that and work with them?
It's really hard. I've got a gal who I was actually in with, who's been a diamond with me since 2018. Who blew into her and talks a lot, and she had fallen off. I had kept reaching out to her, and I was stalking her on Facebook, seeing what she was doing. I knew things were going south, and when they don't respond and kind of fall off on me, especially the ones that I'm so close to, I can lead the horse to water, but I can't make it drink. But I'm always going to be there, and they know that. I don't care what they do, and I've told, it's unconditional. And she's back inside. And they gave her 5 more years. And she had already done 8 years. And she had a suspended sentence, and they reinstated that suspended sentence. And it crushes me, because had I been a part of that, could I have maybe made a difference in, the trial, in pre-diversion for her, with a parole officer? That's our goal. So that's where, I'm good, because I'm a buffer for them. But they have to stay engaged. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I had sleepless nights. Those are the nights I'm on Twitter crying and posting to y'all saying, oh my God, here's what's happened. And, I don't sleep well. I love them. They're like, I don't have children. My husband and I, interesting, I married my best friend after 20 years. We've been married, it'll be 4 years in January, but, I married other people in between. He had gotten married once. But we have an amazing love story. We've been best friends this whole time. And I realized finally that God prepared me to be the wife that he deserved when all this happened. He's the one that picked me up from jail, and I was driving over here that night. And it's just been a magical kind of love story between us to see it finally evolve to where it is. And he supports me in all of this that I do. And he scrapes me off the floor when these things happen. But you know what? She's already called me from the transfer unit. I knew the second I saw the transfer unit, because I only have a few girls there, because they instantly go, to the regular prisons. I knew it was her because I'd been watching, and we picked right back up. I've already sent her some, stuff that she needed, and we're already talking about what really happened. I'm talking to her mother. Her mother's wonderful and supportive. That's how we're keeping her integrated in the community. She's got a son, so we're just going to go right back to doing what we need to do. And she's a diamond, and we're just going to pick right back up, and I'm there for her, and, we'll just do it. And sadly, I've had to do that quite a few times.
It makes me, we just had this conversation about everyone's on their own journey. And this is a reminder of how much control we actually don't have in somebody's journey, and how We might want them to learn something now because we see it for them and we want it so bad for them, but maybe this isn't the time that they're going to learn the thing. And so Christy and I were just talking about this, how I'm actually do a little bit better watching people have to fall however many times it is they have to fall till they get the thing. And you were saying how much pain that is for you to see the people you love falling, but we just don't have control of, we can love and we can, like you said, we can lead them to that water, but we can only do so much.
Well, I think a lot of it is self-worth, so I recognize that the majority of the people that, are stay in that pain or that go back to prison or don't reach out for help when they know they have someone like you that'll like move heaven and earth for them, but they're not reaching out. It usually stems from shame and low self-worth. And even though I thought I had it all together, it took me going to prison and reading a book that, wow, I do have shame. I didn't know that I had that much shame. And so when I see people doing that, it literally pains me because I probably recognize their shame. Yeah. So I think, damn, there's nothing we can do though.
Yeah. Shame is really important.
Yes.
Shame is a dangerous thing. And I shame is what almost put a gun to my head. Yeah. And, you're very on an important point here. I call it the remote control, right? We have to have the remote control in our hands at all times. Yeah. The second and that's the remote control to our emotions, and we cannot be driven by our emotions. And the second I had that aha moment, and when my girls have that aha moment, and I can see when they finally get that, that's when that real self-love and that real, no matter what, the one thing I'm protecting is my freedom. You can't take it from me. My husband can't take it from me. Nobody. God comes first and my freedom. And the only way I can protect that freedom is that shame doesn't envelop me. And the only way that my shame doesn't envelop me, because I have to live with me. I have to live with everything I've done, and I have to live with this accident, and I live with that loss of life. It is horrific. I'm not built that way. Obviously, look at what I do every day. It's horrific. But I had to get to that point of my own true self-worth. And that was working through all my lifetime. I have childhood. I was involved in Provoking in school in Brookhaven. We didn't get a chance to really talk about that, but I had a traumatized childhood. I'm adopted. I was, all my siblings are passed away. My mother, I went through so much, and I could have easily just let that shame envelop me. I could have turned to an addiction. I could have, just kept, but I had to get to that point to realize that protecting myself first and loving myself was the most important thing. And when the girls really go through, so I take them through that trauma exercise to understand that. And then we talk about emotions and leading a meaningful life and holding that remote control. And nobody, because I'll tell you, when they fall off, once they've gotten out, 95% of the time, and sorry guys, it's a guy.
Yeah. They
get in a toxic relationship. They're not ready for it yet. And then they give up the remote control. And now when you give up the remote control to somebody else, trouble.
Yes. But one thing that I've noticed is that someone like you and maybe someone like me who has had support, even though I never took the remote control, I gave it to everyone because I was like, oh, I'll do whatever anyone wants. I'm fine. No problem. So when the remote control was handed to me, it's like, holy shit. Am I allowed to have the remote control? Is it appropriate? What buttons do I press? I mean, I had no idea. So it would take me living by myself with no man, really was a huge thing for 4 years to be like, wow, I can press these buttons and wow, I feel great. And it's going to hurt someone else, but I feel good about it, about my own self. But so I think that's the key. These, the women especially need to know that they are allowed, and it's actually, important for them to have that remote control. I love that. I'm going to use that. Thank you. I'm going to steal that.
Very important. That's why empower is one of my, I have 3, key words on my website, and empower is the first one. And that's what I'm referring to. And that was hard for me too, because I try to make myself small. I would try to, even though I'm this big personality and this big, but I've always was appeasing people and always wanting to fit in and make people happy. And I would give that remote control to everybody, especially my relationships. And I'd get in toxic relationships. And, I didn't feel like I had a right to say no. And I didn't know what true empowerment meant without being narcissistic or being ego driven and being power tripping and then fueling that with alcohol. I didn't know the healthy way to do it under him. And then knowing, okay, this is how I protect me and my well-being, and why my well-being will be so beneficial and much more beneficial to those around me. And that has transformed my relationships in my life. It's what allowed my husband and I to have what we have. And my dad, you know, the family that I do have left that's living, and repair things, even beyond restoring and repairing, renewed. I have a renewed life and a purpose. And I mean, it is, I can't even compare. And yes, while the things are like, we were talking how cool it is transferable and those kind of things, but the depth of a relationships and the authenticity and the freedom, core love, and it's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. And I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Well,
I know she's such a damn timekeeper.
We've done it again. We've eaten up an hour that felt like 20 minutes. But we have we totally did, but we have a fun thing we like to do at the end. Well, we have the questions.
But I have some questions. Am I allowed? Like, do we have enough time? Because she's the timekeeper.
I'm just
playing. I love that you do that.
Respect for the viewers.
I appreciate that.
So let's do quick. But is there anything on our live that you want to share?
Yes. Is it okay if we ask you a few questions from people, Nicole? Okay.
Yeah.
What were some of the weaknesses that you had, and how did you strengthen them? Oh, that's a good one, Daniel.
Oh, that's a really good one. I mean, I've talked about quite a few of them. I think when somebody's asking about my weaknesses, I think talking about like the way I saw myself, I had an overinflated view of myself, and I didn't know how to see myself. You know, I kind of was surface level, even though I had deep relationships. And what I had to do was break that all down and really get to what was important, you know, and not allow that to drive bad behaviors. So when I broke that down, once I realized that, then the behaviors followed. Like, that's what made it so easy to just change my lifestyle. Once I realized, okay, wait a minute, I got to break down me and where the brokenness and the weaknesses are. And really, it was just understanding, who am I? For all these years, I'd been so confused. I through my adoption and my childhood and all that, for me, it was breaking through the trauma. Those were my weaknesses, and not allowing that to drive me and make these horrible emotional fueled decisions, like ones that allowed me to get.
Sound familiar to you?
Get in a car after I'd been drinking, like relationship with.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
so many women.
We processed that this week with you.
Yeah, it's true. It's true for so many women, and the people that don't end up crashing real hard, crashing literally or figuratively, still go through it. You know, it's still a big thing with them. Okay, I have one other question. Who do you look to for your mentorship? Who mentors you?
I have the most amazing mentors. I have two. Like, when my mom was sick, just real quick, unfortunately, my dad had to sell the house, and we knew that she was not safe. So we had to move her into a assisted living apartment. I got rid of my house. I moved into an apartment across the street from my mom, so I could wheel her in a wheelchair over to my place, and at least my dad could have dinners with her outside of that facility, and I could be there. So I was caring for my mom. That was my job. That's how I survived those 3 years too. And there were these two women God put in my path. It was a little Melrose Place, you know, with the pool and the old apartments around it. Think of that. Okay. And all the women in there are over 60. Okay. And these women, though, are in their 80s, and just the most amazing women. And they took me, I woke up to notes on my door, and I told them my story instantly, and they got to know my mom, and we'd sit around the pool. And still to this day, I get a letter from one of them every other day in my mail, snail mail. Just amazing. And she gives me God's wisdoms, and she gives me 10 of them a day, and I share them. She wrote me every single day I was in prison, every single day. And she gives me these pearls of wisdom. And then the other one is just incredible with her guidance of not only scripturally, but she was a school teacher for 50 years here in Texas. So she's got that educational background, but then she's very spiritual, and never had kids. And she just adopted me. And when I lost my mom, I gained these 2 women. And then I have 3 godmothers that I've had my whole life that are just incredible women. I could not, and one of them almost did adopt me at one point in my life when I was struggling as a teenager. And then I have my therapist, who's become a dear, dear friend of mine, and she mentors me to this day. So I made sure I have a village and a tribe around me. And then now through my advocacy, I've got people in the council or the board. I sit on the board of directors for TGI. There's people that I flock to that mentor me too. It's critical. I give and pour out so much. I have to have people pouring into me too, or I can't do this.
Yes.
For sure.
We
That's
both
super
agree
important.
with that. We have our tribes too, and it's kept us alive through hard things. We'll just say that. It's important. Any more?
There's some more, but I don't know that we have time for all that.
Okay, well, Nicole, you should check through the Facebook Live and look at all the comments and the questions on there. And if you want to respond to anything later after we're done, they're there for you.
Thanks everyone for doing comments and
we
watching.
will put some things in our show notes and different things, the bill, people can see what that's about.
Yes.
And anything else before we say goodbye
Well,
to
I
you?
want to do I know.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we're gonna do a quick speed round. I'm always asking you like I'm the child.
Well, and I want to do my website and my Twitter too.
Yes.
So people know where to find me and if they want to follow it.
Yep, we'll put those in the show notes tonight so people can they can find you. Okay, so Christy loves her speed round. Are you ready?
So this is just gonna lighten it up so that we want just like one or 2 word answers, okay? What was your favorite prison food?
Pickle.
Pickle. Was that the spicy
Pickle.
kind? Was it the spicy kind?
In the bag.
Yeah, in the bag. Pickle in
Just
the
the pickle in the bag.
Okay, let's see. Are you a morning or night person?
Night.
That's what I thought.
Night.
Who do you admire the most?
Well, God, Jesus. That's a tough one. Probably my dad.
That's beautiful. If you could talk in your sleep, what would you say?
Go to bed.
I figured something
Fall
like
asleep
that.
already.
Go to sleep. On a scale of 1 to 10, how cool are you?
10.
Yes, good answer. Good answer.
Good enthusiasm.
Let's see. What compliment do you give people the most?
Probably how in tune they are.
With themselves or with?
Yeah, but like whatever we're talking about.
Okay.
Like I make sure they know that I understand them.
Okay.
Love it.
Let's see. Let's see. And the last one is, what makes you smile?
You guys.
Aww.
You're our best friend.
Come over and go on our hike with us.
I know.
Tonight.
I wish you weren't so far away. We're going to go on a quick hike.
We are going to do a USA tour and go see all of our favorite conversation people one day.
Yes, we're throwing that out there in the universe. We would really like to do a Freedom Exchange conference with all the people that we have had on our show and have you guys as speakers and invite people from the world and to get the amazing information and inspiration from people that have been in prison and done hard things and come out and are kicking ass. So we're manifesting that. Can you imagine we could do like
I love that.
tour? Yeah, that'd be
Count
great.
me in.
All right, definitely.
Of course.
We'll get some diamonds there too.
Oh, for
Absolutely.
sure. For
Yes.
sure. I can see it. It's becoming more clear. I love that. Thank you, Nicole, so much. I really appreciate it. When I first learned that Teresa was coming out of prison in Texas, the first person I called was Nicole. And within minutes, she had gotten her a ride out of prison. She got her a place to stay. She got her toiletries. She got her clothing, everything. Now the BOP didn't allow that, which really pissed me off and put her in a situation that wasn't very good for her. But for someone that you don't know, that you've never met in person, to do all that work was just incredible. So I've loved you ever since.
Shout out to Twitter, because that seems to be the way you can reach so many people.
Yes, there's a lot of amazing people doing amazing work on Twitter, and it's so cool just to have your little community that works together, and it's amazing. So
Nicole, this has been really fun. We really have fun talking
you're
to
our people.
You are our girl for sure.
If you need anything from us, or anything in Oregon, or anything,
or you want to come to Oregon,
yes. Gotta wear your
I was just watching a date night thing, and they were showing all of Oregon. Oh, it's just so beautiful, like the gorge, I think it's called, and all that.
Yeah,
oh, it's just beautiful.
Oh no, it's like 6 hours.
Oh, it is. Oh,
she's a
Cali
girl. She's a Cali girl.
I saw something that said the gorge. It was like right up the street.
No.
Oh, must
but
be a different kind of
beautiful. I was just up there this weekend. It's super beautiful, but it's far away.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay. We can do road.
I used to work in Seattle. So it's beautiful up there. I do know that. I loved going up there when it's not raining.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I love you guys.
One of these days we'll get to Dallas for sure.
For sure. Okay, girlfriend. Have a really great night.
Thank you.
Good
love
to
you,
talk
girl.
to you.
Thanks, you guys.
Okay, bye.